Hi everyone! So today I thought I would do a end of the year kind of a wrap up type video. Everyone is doing their top 17 books of 2017 type things, and I thought I would do my top books. And then I realized as going through my Goodreads account that a lot of the books I had read this year were rereads, and yeah, I wanted to talk about books that I hadn't read before because obviously I enjoyed the books that I reread because I'm rereading them, so that's just kind of a given. So I thought I would talk about brand new books that I had read this year that I really enjoyed. And so I couldn't come up with 17, which was kind of depressing. But I thought I would do 10 books that I really liked and then 7 books that were kind of disappointing. So not necessarily books that I hated or that I didn't like, but just books that I felt like kind of a bit of a letdown, or books that I felt didn't necessarily live up to the hype. So just kind of stuff like that. If I really didn't like the book, I will mention that. There are books that I have put into this category that I was really severely disappointed with, but most of them are just kind of like, this isn't really what I was expecting. So I just want to put that out there for you guys. So I'm going to start with my 10 nice favorite books of this year, I guess. These aren't in any sort of order, except for 2 of them. I'm going to start with those because those are like my absolute favorite books for this year. So my first favorite book of this year that is like an actual, absolutely loved it, I cannot get enough of it book is The Lady of the Lake by Andrzej Sapkowski. This book was phenomenal. The writing was just so intense. The events that happened, the way it all just kind of comes together. I was literally just dying. I could not get enough of this book. It was just so incredibly awesome. What a great way to wrap up this series. I am just so happy with the way the series ended and the way the book ended. And it's kind of open-ended a little bit, which is good because it leads into the Witcher video games. And yeah, it's just such a good book. I literally went to work, and I have a coworker who really enjoys fantasy too, and I was like, I know you haven't read the Witcher series, but you need to read the Witcher series just so you can read this book. Oh, the other book that I really enjoyed this year is The Business of Once by Cressida Cowell. This book was just hilarious. It latched me on immediately. The illustrations are so great. The style of writing, the plot, it's just hilarious, gets it going, sets up the universe kind of thing, and I just loved this book. I absolutely loved this book. It was just hilarious. So now the rest of these books are books that I did really enjoy and would 100% recommend, but I just wanted to get those 2 books out of the way because those were like my absolute favorite books of the year. So the next book that I have is The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Ruiz? I'm sorry if I'm butchering that. This past year I read a lot of self-help slash spirituality books. It was just a very interesting year. Just knowing that those are the books that I was reading the most of probably tells you what my year was like. I'm not going to say it was a bad year, but it was definitely a very trying year and taught me a lot about myself and a lot about what I don't want in life and what I do want in life. And these spirituality books really helped, and one of them was The Four Agreements. And this was just such a great book to kind of just like boil everything down to like how to live a really great life and how to be a better person and just how to really be the best person that you possibly can be without relying on other people too much. And it was just amazing. It's all about personal freedom, and it was just such a great book. I absolutely love this book, and yeah, definitely worth the hype. Another book that I read that is in that kind of vein of books is Moonology by Yasmin Boland. And I love this book. It's all about working with lunar cycles, syncing up to the cycles of the moon, not necessarily your own cycles if you're a lady. But yeah, it's just like really awesome to kind of get to know the types of rituals and activities that you can do to correspond with each phase of the moon, and even if you're not super into like spirituality, witchcraft, stuff like that, it's just really cool to read and learn about, and I really enjoyed it, and yeah, it was great. So one of the first books that I read this year that I quite enjoyed and I blew through was Carve the Mark by Veronica Roth, and this is an ARC. I got this when I was working at Harper, and it was a really good book. I really enjoyed it. So I read this book in January after all of the controversy stuff came out about potential racism and stereotyping of ethnicities. So I went into this book kind of thinking of that and knowing that that was how not all people who had read the book, but a lot of people in the book community had viewed this book. So I went into it very skeptically. I wasn't really sure that I would read it. I had not read Allegiant or Divergent or whatever, any of that. So I wasn't really sure if I would like Veronica Roth's writing. But I did really enjoy it. I didn't really see any racism. I can see how some people might determine ethnic stereotyping, but I didn't feel like it was so blatantly done as the way that some people were saying, and I'm sorry, that's just my opinion. I can see where people are coming from, but I didn't think that it was done intentionally or to the point where some people were saying it was. So I really enjoyed the book. I really enjoyed the sci-fi aspect. I enjoyed like the fantasy aspects. I just really enjoyed it. The relationship, the way everything planned out. I thought it was a really good book, and I'm actually looking forward to the sequel. Another book that I read at the beginning of the year was Age of Myth by Michael J. Sullivan, and this was a gift from my brother. I'd asked for it for Christmas, and I was like, you know what, this book just sounds really cool and looks really cool, and I really enjoyed it. It is so interesting to see kind of all of these like fantasy tropes kind of turned on their heads, and you have like a reluctant hero who very much does not want to be a part of anything. He just wants to live his life, and he's kind of being shoved into the limelight and being forced to be this person that he doesn't want to be, and he just kind of wants to live a quiet life, and he's not allowed to, basically. And it's just really cool to see him developing as a character, seeing Persephone develop as a character, and just everything and the way it's all kind of tying together. And it's just really well written and really cool, and it kind of deals with like a fae element, but it's taking that like high elvish kind of fantastical, can't touch this ridiculously angelic race of beings, and totally flipping that on its head, and there's like politics and everything that are going on, and it is just insane, and I am so excited to read the next book. This is the last book that I read at the beginning of the year, and it is The Voyage of the Basilisk by Marie Brennan, and it is a memoir of Lady Trent, and I love this series so much. It is just so great. I love that it's written like a memoir. It's written obviously from the first person, as if somebody has written it out, and it is just so fun to read. It's funny, it's intelligent, it deals with politics, it deals with scientific communities, It's kind of like an alternative universe type deal where dragons exist. And it's very similar to, I would say, like Victorian era world. And it's just really fun to read and hear this, like, she's essentially an old woman writing this, and just hearing her write about her adventures when she was younger and just being like, yeah, I wore pants, I didn't give a shit. It's like, oh my god, like, this is hilarious. And at this point in time, she brings her son with her, and so you also get to experience her, I guess, experiencing backlash for bringing her child on this scientific expedition to look at dragons in, like, the middle, like, all across the world. She's going on a journey around the world to look at these dragons, so that was super cool. And yeah, it's just a really fun series, and I really want to read the next one. The next two books are some of my most recent reads. I got them around September, October era. So the first one is Trials of Apollo, The Hidden Oracle. So I hadn't really been intending to read this series, and then I kind of changed my mind. So I did get into the series, obviously, and I really enjoyed it. I think that as somebody who has read Percy Jackson basically from day one and has read The Heroes of Olympus and Magnus Chase, and I have read the first book of the Kane Chronicles, I just wasn't a fan of the way it was written, but I've read so much of Rick Riordan's works that I'm like, I can't just not read this. And it's just so cool to see the way that he's taken the gods, and Rick Riordan has always humanized the Greek gods, but he humanizes them even more in this series, especially with Apollo becoming immortal. So it's just really, really cool to see Apollo become this mortal human and basically just get kicked around and like literally get kicked around and told that he's not important because he's not a god anymore, and to have all of this power stripped away. And I just thought it was a really great way to flip this very, very well-known character on its head and just have nothing work out for him. And especially Percy Jackson in this is my favorite. I think he's my favorite in this story. So yeah, that's the thing. So I couldn't talk about Percy Jackson and Rick Riordan without mentioning Magnus Chase and The Ship of the Dead. I just really loved Percy Jackson's cameo in this as well. It's just really funny. And it's great to see Percy and Annabeth outside of their series. I really like that. But this is just a really fun book, and the Magnus Chase and all of Rick Riordan's books to me are just kind of a way to get away from serious fantasy and just kind of have some like fun with it and go with it. And it's just really fun. I love the pop references. I love reading these books and getting the classical literature references as well. So there was a Beowulf reference in here, and not that Beowulf is classical, but Beowulf is just such a well-known piece of literature, and as somebody who studied English literature and throughout university, and especially Old English and Middle English, I just really, really enjoyed that reference. And I just love being older and reading these books and being like, I totally get this, like, this reference, and I know where this scene is coming from, and being able to like kind of put that together. And I just think that Rick does a great job with these books, and I love it. Okay, so those are my top 10 books, and now we are getting into my bottom 7, I suppose you could call them. Top 10, bottom 7. Maybe that will be like the title of this video. So anyway, so these are books that I was a little bit disappointed with, so keep that in mind. So the first book is The Heroic Legend of Arslan, and this is the first one in the series. And I think it's because I watched the anime before reading the manga, but I just felt that it was literally the exact same thing. So I was just kind of like, okay, like, if the manga is turning out to be the exact same way as the anime, I don't really want to spend my money and waste it on manga when I could literally just watch the anime. So I did enjoy it. I watched the whole first series or first season, and I really enjoyed the series, and I love it. I love the story, but I was just kind of hoping for something a little bit different. I might have to read the light novel, but we'll see. I did enjoy it, but I was just hoping for a little bit something more. The next book is a book that you guys have been hearing me talk about and complain about for a long time, and I am still in the middle of reading it, and that is The Iliad by Homer. I am just so annoyed with this book. I think I'm just gonna have to DNF it for this year and pick it up again in the new year, because I just can't get into this book. I've been having so many issues with this book, just trying to get into it and trying to really enjoy it. And I know it's a classic, and I've read the Odyssey, and I want to read this book. I want to read it. I want to know all the references, and I want to experience it. I'm just having the hardest time ever. So this has definitely been a very, very disappointing book for me. So if you guys remember me talking about my self-help spirituality journey that I went on this year, I have a book that I was disappointed with, and that is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And I did enjoy it. It was something that I felt was a really cool read. It was very interestingly written. I'm not sure that I liked the way it was written, but I don't know if it lived up to the hype. I think this is one of those books that I'm gonna have to read again, because this book has just been so hyped and is just like has been such a staple in like the spirituality community, and I just felt like I enjoyed it, but I didn't think it was that mind-blowing. So I think I might just need to reread it and kind of go back, but yeah, it just wasn't like cataclysmic to me. A recent read that I have that was disappointing is The Rebel of the Sands by Alan Hamilton, and I did enjoy it. I feel like I'm saying that a lot. Like it was okay. I just felt like there was a lot of hype around it, and I don't know if I'm just reading the wrong critiques. Clearly all of these books have been hyped, and I'm just so disappointed by all of them. But I just heard like really good things about it, and it just wasn't what I thought. I don't know what I thought, but it was just a little bit of a letdown. It wasn't as amazing as I thought it was gonna be, and I feel like it had the potential to be more. So the next book is Pharaoh by Wilbur Smith, I believe. And I don't have the book because I was so disappointed and disliked it that I donated it. Yeah, it was like, I don't even know what book it was in the series, but I was not really feeling it. I feel like if I had maybe started with the beginning, it would have been okay, but reading that book kind of out of context, it just wasn't that great to me. It didn't pull me in, and I wasn't invested in the characters or the plot. I didn't really care. So yeah, I didn't like it, and because I didn't like it and I didn't want to read it again, I decided to donate it. So yeah. So the next two books I'm going to talk about are actually my two least favorite books of the year. I was severely disappointed. I was not a fan. There were just so many things wrong with these books that I was just, I don't know, I was just kind of like really upset. And these are both the second to last books in the series, and so it's kind of like I don't want to finish the series, but I do because I've spent so much time and effort with these series, and I want to know how it's going to finish, but I also don't want to spend the money if these books are going to be crap again. I will talk about the most controversial one, and that was The Tower of Dawn by Sarah J Maas. I'm sorry it's like plugged in because it's dying, as is my camera battery. So we're gonna make this fast. But Sarah J Maas, Tower of Dawn, I was not a fan of. The issues in this book, I'm sorry. I was just not a fan of it. I am planning on doing a book review for this. This is the book review that I've been talking about that I just haven't gotten around to, and then I did do it, and then it was like ruined. So I will do it, and I will talk more about it then. But yeah, I was severely disappointed with Tower of Dawn. So the next book that I was severely disappointed with was Crate's Redemption by T.L. Scheffler from the Cat's Eyes series. And yeah, this book, there's a lot of stuff wrong with it. The language that was used, the extremely patriarchal plotline, the events that happen, it just kind of felt like crap, and it had been I think a year and a half, almost 2 years since the last book had been released, and everyone had been like dying to hear it, and I loved the previous books in the series, and I was just waiting to like get this book and read it and love it as much as the rest, and I felt like it was just rushed and not a lot of effort had been put into it. So I was just not a fan at all. I do not like Sora in this book. There are a lot of characters that I did not like in this book, and I am really sad. And so hopefully in the next book, T.L. Scheffler can redeem herself. So those are my top 10, bottom 7 of 2017. Let me know what your favorite and least favorite books are. They can be books that you were just disappointed with or didn't really enjoy as much as you thought you would, such as mine. But yeah, let me know in the comments below what you enjoyed and didn't enjoy. And yeah, let's just be kind to everybody. Everybody's opinion is their own, and it's okay. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!